morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Josh McKelvin. It wasn't all that long ago that if Mike Pence was in New Hampshire, you might think he was kicking the tires on his own presidential run. From his time in Congress to being the governor of Indiana, he has the demeanor and the resume. Instead, it was just about a month ago that Pence was thrust onto the global stage after accepting the offer to be Donald Trump's running mate and quite possibly the next vice president of the United States. Governor, good to see you.
Thank you, Josh.
Welcome
good to be
Hampshire.
here. Thank you.
I got to ask you, it's been about a month. What's it been like?
Well, it's been very humbling for me and my family to have been called to stand by this good man. I truly do believe Donald Trump will be a great president of the United States of America, but the privilege of being able to be out campaigning with him, campaigning for him across the country is just a great honor for us, and it's one that I really relish as you travel around the country, Josh, and we'll see it here again in New Hampshire in the days ahead. Donald Trump has made a connection with the American people like no American leader that in my lifetime since Ronald Reagan, and you see it at the rallies, whether it's out west or down south or all across this great Northeast, that Donald Trump is speaking into the aspirations and frustrations of the American people, and to have the privilege to see that firsthand, to help tell that story, has been a real joy for us.
Sure, no question about it. Over the course of the primary, he did build up some very loyal core support, and those folks aren't going anywhere. But to win in November, conventional wisdom would say that you need establishment support as well. And theoretically, that's where you come in. How much do you feel the pressure to bridge that gap and to get some of the Paul Ryans and the Kelly Ayotts here in New Hampshire and some of the other folks on board?
Well, we're grateful to have the support of Speaker Ryan and of Senator Ayotte, who's doing a phenomenal job in Washington, D.C. and deserves a strong re-election by the people of New Hampshire. But you know, as this campaign goes forward, I think you're going to continue to see Donald Trump do what he did this week, laying out a comprehensive strategy for confronting radical Islamic terrorism. Just as the week before he talked about getting this economy moving again by putting American jobs and American interests first. As the campaign goes on, I think we're going to continue to see support from not only elected leaders around the country, but more and more Americans, Republicans, Independents, and Democrats, are going to respond as that detailed agenda continues to come forward, as it always does this time in the campaign. And I couldn't be more excited to be out there campaigning with and for him. Yeah,
message is one thing, ground game is something else. You need a machine, like is always pointed to on the Clinton side of things. Campaign's really undergone an overhaul since the coronation in Cleveland. What's going on right now? Are you confident that things are as they should be?
Well, this week there were a couple of great additions to our national campaign, some extraordinarily talented people. But this is all, you here in New Hampshire know a little bit about presidential politics. You've seen more than a few of them, and sometimes a lot more up close and personal than we get to see in the state of Indiana. But I just think what you're seeing is just the natural progress of a campaign that is building more momentum every day. And I think when you see Donald Trump head out on the stump, and with just a day or two notice, to see 10,000 and 15,000 people come out at his rallies, and as I saw this last week, 500 and 1,000 people coming out just to hear me talk about Donald Trump's vision. I think it convinces me that as our campaign continues to grow, continues to add more talented women and men, the most important thing is that we're adding more support of everyday Americans who just know we can do better in this country, that we can stand taller on the world stage, we can rebuild our military, and we can get this economy moving again for every American.
There's a lot of Republican voters that I speak to, when they hear you talk, they say, I wish he was at the top of the ticket. And that may be flattering, but I'm also told that rankles you a little bit when you hear that.
Well, I couldn't be more honored to be standing with Donald Trump. I mean, I've seen him, Josh, when the Klieg lights are off, when the cameras are off. And I have to tell you that I'm incredibly impressed with this man and the passion he has for this country, and the willingness for him to take this success as one of the iconic American business leaders of this generation and be willing to bring that to bear on making America great again. I think in a very real sense, Donald Trump is exactly the kind of individual that the founders of this country hoped would be drawn to the highest office in the land. People that have accomplished great things in their own lives and in their own right, who would be willing to, in a season of service, to be willing to answer the call of this country. And so I believe he's the right man at the right time, and I couldn't be more honored or more humbled to be standing with him.
Well, if you're successful in November, obviously the job will turn to governing then, and certainly the nation has a lot of problems. But right now, do you find that, you talk about being on the campaign trail with him, campaigning for him, campaigning with him, are you also translating for him a lot? Whether, I mean, you know how Donald Trump is, whether it's says the president's the co-founder of ISIS or that he knows more about ISIS than the generals do. Do you feel like you have to explain what that meant to a lot of voters?
I think the American people hear Donald Trump loud and clear, and as I see out on the rope lines and at the rallies that I'm doing, even out on my own, when we talk about that message, I think people really appreciate that Donald Trump doesn't speak through some political correct filter. He tells you exactly what's on his mind. And as President of the United States, the American people are going to know exactly what their new president thinks about everything, because he's right out there. He's totally honest. He's totally upfront. Now, we've got different styles, Josh, and I acknowledge that. But we have exactly the same convictions that we can have a strong America at home and abroad again. But it's going to take broad-shouldered leadership and the leadership that Donald Trump will bring to the White House to do that.
Recently, he said not only is he running against Hillary Clinton, he's also running against the corrupt media. And feel free to take some shots, because I'm not defending anybody at this point. Where is, by your estimation, the media getting it wrong when it comes to Donald Trump?
Well, I just think it's remarkable. I mean, you saw just in the last week alone, the media, many in the national media, not all, Josh, but sure, many in the national media focusing on semantics and on word choices by Donald Trump when they were ignoring extraordinary revelations that go to the very heart of the integrity of the candidacy of Hillary Clinton. I mean, we saw new emails that came to light that seemed to make a direct connection between major foreign donors to the Clinton Foundation and favors and access granted by the State Department while she was Secretary of State. We learned a day later, while the media was chasing after another word choice story, that the FBI wanted to open a public corruption case against the Clinton Foundation, and the Obama administration's Justice Department shut it down. Even this week, as we're sitting down right now, there's more revelations about lapsed ethics standards at the State Department among her senior officials. And so for our part, look, when you're out in the public domain, everything's fair game. People can talk about what they want to talk about. That's what a free and independent press is all about. But what I hope we see more of in the days ahead is focusing on the substance and the real issues and the real choice the American people have in this election.
How have you had to change your philosophy when it comes to politics with someone who's completely unconventional? You talk about the media focusing on the word choices, but you do want the attention put on the opponent. So how have you had to navigate how you've been kind of brought through this whole process? You've been in the game for a long time.
Well, I think it's, my wife gave me the best advice from the first time we got that phone call late at night at the governor's residence in Indianapolis. She just said, be yourself. And I've continued to be myself. I really, I don't sense any perception or any change in the way that I've gone about my business. I'm a conservative. I'm not in a bad mood about it. I like a good debate on the issues. I like to lay out the choice that we have. And the choice in this election really is a choice between change and the status quo. It's between someone who represents a fundamental change in direction back to the kind of policies that have gotten this economy working in the past, have rebuilt our military, restored our place in the world, put American jobs and American workers first, and frankly, a continuation of the failed policies of the last 7.5 years. Laying out that contrast, doing it cheerfully, doing it persistently is something I've done throughout my career, and I'm enjoying and relishing the chance to do it with Donald Trump.
I want to ask you, Governor, about an issue that's an important one here in New Hampshire, the top issue, according to a lot of our voters, and that's the crisis of addiction, opioids, heroin. Here in New Hampshire, it surprises a lot of people. Even Mr. Trump said he was surprised to find out just how pervasive it is. How does that tie into whether it's national security, immigration policy, things along those lines?
Well, it is an issue that has not only represented a challenge for people in New Hampshire, but my home state, the state of Indiana. And really, there's no state, there's no community in America that hasn't been affected, particularly by the rising tide of opiate addiction. And let me just say, Senator Kelly Ayotte's national leadership on this issue has really been remarkable. And the legislation that she passed just this summer on Capitol Hill is really reflective of what we've been doing in the state of Indiana, which is recognizing, look, you've got to have tough law enforcement, and we've got to get, and we are getting, more serious every day to make sure that anyone who's profiting from selling these drugs and these poisons to our kids is held strictly accountable. But Kelly Ayotte has said it well, that we know we can't just arrest our way out of this problem. We've got to expand access to life-saving treatments in cases of overdose. We've got to expand access to recovery and treatment, expand prevention. That's exactly what Kelly Ayotte has done in national legislation. We did that a bit in Indiana, and I promise you, when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States, we're gonna take on this effort to deal with this rising tide of opiate addiction and drug addiction with that two-pronged approach: tougher law enforcement, but more effective and more compassionate prevention and treatment for those caught up in the stranglehold of addiction.
Running out of time quick, but I want to ask you, we're asking this a lot of the candidates, does that, on the supply side of things, does that include the possibility of going cross-border enforcement, knocking out these drug cartels?
Well, I think one of the things Donald Trump would tell you if he was sitting here, it also means having a border, having real border integrity. And Donald Trump was the first one to put not only the question of illegal immigration, but making sure that we're once again a nation of borders on the table. And you better believe it, building a wall, having secure borders, particularly with Mexico, is going to make a meaningful contribution to disrupting and interrupting the extraordinary flow of narcotics into this country.
About 30 seconds to go. What do you believe the issue is going to be that defines and decides perhaps the outcome in November?
I think it's change versus the status quo. I think if you think declining American power in the world and a struggling American economy here at home, the weakest economic recovery since the Great Depression is good enough, then that's what Hillary Clinton's offering. But if you want a stronger America at home and abroad, a real change in Washington, D.C., there's only one choice, and that's Donald Trump.
Well, you've been certainly busy as well as Donald Trump's running mate going around the country. Appreciate your time, sir, and come back to New Hampshire anytime.
Thanks, Josh. Good to be in.
Good to see you. We're right back with Republican candidate for Congress, Jack Flanagan. Stay with us.